You ready for the number one pick, Keith?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's happening.
I think that's where we're
Start
heading.
watching some college football.
Yep.
Holy mackerel.
Hopefully you started your scout with Georgia and Texas and Oregon and everybody else last weekend because, you're going right to the top of the draft based on yesterday.
Wow. I was not prepared for that. As somebody that put down too many hams on the Patriots money line, I was like, why is the spread so big? Not big enough.
No,
Not
turns out Vegas had an inkling on that
Because
one.
you gotta even grade it on a scale because the Jaguars are horrible.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence looked like a good quarterback. He had been a horrible quarterback.
He's not, but he looked like one.
He was a eyelash away from being benched for Mac Jones. That's where they were at. That's where they were at. Doug Peterson would have been fired probably last week if they weren't staying in England for a whole week. So he stays there. So you have a coach teetering, a quarterback teetering, and after the first quarter, they just lit you up. They were in complete control of the game after getting down 10-0. Thing just fell apart. I legit am surprised. I know the Patriots are bad. I know they're bad. I knew they were bad going in. But to play like that against that opponent, I was shooketh.
You said on Friday, if they lose the game, never mind how they lose it, just if they lose the game, you'll be shooketh because Jacksonville is that bad. Never mind. Then it's not just a loss, it's how they lost it, Keith. Like, how did that happen? They were in control of the game.
Yeah. 10-0.
Just cruising.
I was already spending my money. I was like, what am I going to buy? I'm like, this is great.
I couldn't wait for the victory lap with Drake May today. And
Should've cashed out.
All these things.
Cash out Keefe made a misstep there. What a mistake.
So how did it turn so quickly? And, that's a big part of today.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy. There's zero strategy.
I'm shooketh.
That's me.
Oh, that's Keefe. The
I'm
first
shooketh.
voice, I think, was either Alex Van Pelt or is it DeMarcus Covington?
Gerard Mayo.
Could have been Robert Kraft.
Hot seat.
I'm not really sure who was speaking there first, but it's a lot of members of the New England Patriots. So it's how they lost. It was so bad, Keith. They were in control, and then they couldn't get a stop. They couldn't do anything for what felt like an eternity. And then on top of it, you have all the predictable finger pointing after the game.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like
everybody's fault.
It's not even just Gerard Mayo calling the team soft, which he walked back today on WEEI with the Greg Hill Show. A little bit.
Which is also a classic Gerard Mayo.
Oh, I mean,
say one thing one day, be asked about it the next day, have to clarify.
Leads the league in clarifications.
Oh, my
just
God.
An absolute.
All-timer.
If you go to his Pro Football Reference page, it is just dark black, leads the league in clarifications.
Yep.
After he says something, puts his foot in his mouth and has to correct it. Does it every week here on WEEI. So he did it again today.
It is the classic.
We're not soft. We're just playing soft.
Yeah. You get in an argument with somebody. Maybe it's your wife. It could be anybody. Let's just say hypothetically it's your wife.
Probably your wife, but yeah.
And it's I didn't say you're a psycho. I said you're acting like a psycho. Right? I didn't say the team's soft. I said they're playing soft.
Yeah.
So what is a playing
You're
soft?
not a lunatic. You're just acting like a lunatic.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah,
It's like,
don't take it so personally.
It's like, gee, that's not what you said. It's like, no, guys, I didn't say it's a soft team. I said they're playing soft. There's a huge
difference. They're not soft.
What a difference.
They just play soft, and we don't coach them to be soft,
We don't
by
coach
the
them
way.
soft.
No. So they're soft on their own,
Ew.
which
you know a guy who could get that figured out.
let me put you right through.
I've heard your ads.
Dale over at Northeast Men's Health. And so, it's just all the finger pointing after the game.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's so embarrassing, and it's like, not that they have a lot of good players, but some of the guys doing the finger pointing, it's kind of embarrassing. Daniel Akwale.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. They don't have good players.
No.
Right? That's what it comes down to.
Uh-huh.
And Drake May has played 2 games, or started 2 games. He's played in 3 games.
Yep.
And everybody was, the year was very much about him. The team was going to kind of sink or swim with him. But in reality, they could sink, and he could still play really well. He could have a great individual year where we see, flashes, or we have just overall good games. But if everybody else around him is just pulling him deeper and deeper into the ocean, then that's where we're at. I mean, I think we knew the O-line was bad. We knew the receivers were bad. We knew the offensive play caller was bad. That was sort of a given. You're like, oh, wow, it's an uphill climb for Drake May. But then when you factor in the defense sucks, and they're giving up 97-yard punt return touchdowns.
Yeah.
Your head's spinning. Where do you even turn? They don't have good players, let alone great players.
No.
We talked last week about the lack of elite players. They're so far away from elite players. I don't even know how many good players they have.
You said this on the other side too. It's like, look at the players carving them up. Trevor Lawrence stinks.
Tank Bigsby. Oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence. was teetering on whether he was a starting quarterback in the NFL. He just had his best game of his career.
And you just mentioned Tank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby
is.
Would they run the ball 30 straight times in the second half?
At one point, it was 16 or 17 straight times. I forget the exact number. And it might as well have been 30 straight times.
Tank Bigsby,
Parker,
who's not even their starter.
Washington?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good player.
Who are these guys?
I don't know.
And they're dominating you. And so there's a lot to get to on the show today. It feels like rock bottom, although it's dangerous to predict rock bottom because sometimes there's more earth beneath it.
Just keep digging.
You just didn't realize you dig a little bit farther.
No,
rock bottom can still be found.
That, I think, is close, and probably for a couple of reasons. This is a 6-game losing streak, which they haven't had since 1993.
Yeah, we keep bringing that year up a lot.
Yeah.
92, 93. I feel like there's a lot of firsts since the early 90s with this team this year.
I also, people often forget just how bad last year was for some reason. It feels like it was either so long ago or you just blocked it out of your memory. They were 4-13 a year ago. They had back-to-back 30-plus point losses early in the season to Dallas and New Orleans. Those were horrible, horrible games. So a lot of times man, I haven't seen a team look like this in a while. It's not true. 2023, they were pretty bad. Even the commentators yesterday, Chris Rose and Joe Thomas, who actually weren't bad. A lot better than Rich Eisen.
Yeah, you liked them.
Yeah, not bad. They actually weren't bad. But, they were talking about, there was one of the many stupid plays by the Patriots. And I think Joe Thomas fell into that cliche that the national guys have. It's this is pretty unfamiliar for a Patriots team. It's no. It's unfamiliar for a Tom Brady Patriots team.
It's too familiar.
We've 5 years of this, right? Give it, they had the 2021 was sort of an outlier, but all the other years they've been pretty bad. But the reason why I say it could be rock bottom is you're playing a very winnable game, maybe the most winnable left on the schedule. And we know that Robert Kraft prioritizes these international games, whether he should or he shouldn't, he does. And he was so upset last year with their performance in Germany that you knew this one, it counted as almost 2 or 3 games, right? Had they won, he might have been falsely confident that they won a game in Jacksonville because it happened to be the England game. But if they lose, I feel like he's going to feel even worse than maybe he should a regular Week 7 loss. And so winnable game, you're up 10-0, and then you just fall apart. You fall apart, and your coach calls you soft afterwards, and there's finger-pointing galore. Players on players, players on coaches, coaches on players, coaches on coaches. It's insane right now.
Yeah.
Fire Mayo was trending on Twitter yesterday. And I know that's not the be-all, end-all, but we're 7 weeks into this exercise.
Yeah, trust me.
Fire Mayo's already up there.
We're going to get into how long his leash is.
I know.
There's a chance he's done in 1 year. 1 year, he's done. You see Lombardi on Twitter yesterday?
Well,
okay, but Lombardi.
You mean Belichick?
Lombardi's just both guns at him all day yesterday. Yeah. At one point, he tweeted, he's like, "If Mayo doesn't come out for the second half, would anyone notice?" What? And
no. What is it you do here? Mayo doesn't do much.
Thank you.
It doesn't feel like.
What does he do?
Yeah.
So
nothing.
I want to get into Gerard Mayo.
Yep.
I want to get into his leash. I want to get into the wide receiver room. They're fun. Jaylen Plunk, his day.
They do think they're pretty good, though.
I love what they do on Instagram after the game. They're just a barrel of laughs.
If those guys were a quarter of as talented as they think they are, they would be a top 5 receiver room.
Oh, it would be.
They think they're great.
It would be T.O. and Randy Moss out there if they were a quarter as good as they thought they were.
It'd be my guy Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardle.
Exactly. So we'll get into Drake May and his day. We of course have what happened. Lots of ways to get in touch with the show today on a Patriots Monday, 617-779-7937. That's your phone number. You can text the show, 37937. You can tweet or get at us on Instagram at Jones and Keefe. Follow along on Twitch, twitch.tv/BostonWEEI. You can watch there or jump in the chat. Already very lively this morning.
Yeah.
And on YouTube. Just subscribe to WEEI. You can view it there as well. Can we play we've referenced it a couple of times now. This is Gerard Mayo. After the game, this is before he's even taken a question, just hits the podium. Here's what he has to say about his team.
Good evening, or whatever time it is. Disappointing game. Disappointing game. We came out, we started fast. What I would say is, we're a soft football team across the board. We talk about what makes a tough football team. That's being able to run the ball, that's being able to stop the run, and that's being able to cover kicks, and we did none of those today. They controlled the ball for most of the day. Their run game averaged over 4.5 yards a carry. Our run game, not sure what the average was, but it wasn't good.
2.5.
Look, back to the drawing board. We can't sit here and pout. We just got to put a game together.
Okay. calls them soft. He clarified today.
Yeah, but he straight up said they're a soft football team yesterday, and now it's like, oh, we're playing soft.
No,
it's
no,
like,
they're
well,
playing soft. We all heard what he said. We all
soft.
know what he meant.
Yeah.
He's like, we're coaching you guys a certain way, and you guys don't get it.
And it's not that they're playing.
He's throwing the players under the bus. It's 100% what he's doing.
If you play soft for 5 of the 7 games, are you playing soft, or is that now your identity? I would say Cincinnati, they weren't soft, and probably Seattle. Every game since. So it's 5 straight games where I feel like they've been soft. And, different, outcomes as far as, how much they lost by. All those games were losses. But how many times was it you knew that the opponent was running the ball and they would run it on you? Right?
I mean,
and like
literally the whole second half.
Or the whole second half in this game, but all the other teams too had plenty of success.
That's true.
running the ball.
Miami ran it down their throats.
Everybody.
49ers ran it. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Everybody did. And so if you're playing soft for most of the season, then you are soft. And I don't know. I mean, I guess he wanted to clarify because it sounds like it's so much more of an insult on the players to say they're soft. It's also a big shot kind of at himself. Maybe he didn't realize that at the time.
I don't think he realizes that, but
it's like we have a soft team. We highlighted this after they played Houston. You have 2 former linebackers, young head coaches in the league. One team hits the snot out of anything that moves. The other team doesn't. And you're like, which one's the middle linebacker head coach? You're like, oh, D'Amico Ryans. Oh, trick question. They both are, even though they look very, very different.
So Gerard Mayo calls his team out after the game. Player after player gets asked about it now. Your coach comes out and says, we're a soft team. We're playing soft.
Well, we'll ask Hunter Henry and Joshua Uche about it today.
We will. So we'll do more asking. We'll do the questions around here.
Yeah, that's right.
But a lot of guys got asked about it yesterday after the game. Daniel Aquale, for instance. He said, I feel like a lot of guys think too highly of themselves and have to check their egos.
So who's he talking about?
I have no idea. Obviously not himself.
Keon White?
Other people need to check their egos.
What?
Jaylen Plunk? I mean, I don't know. Like, probably Jaylen Plunk.
I get, but is Aquale even talking about Polk? Does Aquale even have anything to do with those receivers? I feel like those guys are so in their own head just playing defense.
But don't you hear the receiver running his mouth all week and like he can't catch a football and then you see him on social media? It's like,
but when
I would be talking about Jaylen Plunk.
When Godchow called out the defense on our show a couple weeks back, he specifically said defense because he was like, guys are playing selfish. He's like, I'm only talking about the defense. So he might have his issues with some of the guys on offense, but he's like, I'm not gonna solve that right now. Like, we need to worry about these guys. I don't know. I understand when people are like, hey, Keon White, maybe he's going for too many sacks and he's kind of not doing what is called defensively, and you're like, okay, I could see that. I don't know if too many guys on defense think they're great. I feel like every time there's somebody who thinks they're great, it's offense.
Gonzo?
Maybe, but is he? Maybe in the locker room. I don't think publicly.
He's not very verbose about it. That's true.
He's not a talker. I was going to say.
I know what you're thinking, Gonzo. I can see it on your face, man.
I mean, maybe. I mean, he had a bad game yesterday too. Add him to the long list. Yeah. But I just don't think they have any over-the-top cocky guys on defense. And maybe they should. Maybe it would help them a little bit. Like
maybe.
It's better to be cocky over there, I guess. But I don't know. It's not working. But you're right. Anybody has a chance to call players out. Another reason to listen to the guests on Patriots Monday and Friday.
100%. Kendrick Bourne, by the way, who I'm not sure we're going to get today, he said players need to make personal decisions rather than staying up all night.
Wait a minute.
Or eating whatever.
Is he talking about me? I stay up way too late and I eat nonsense. The stuff I eat is just gross.
I wake up every day just ashamed.
Like, I had a big bowl of ramen at midnight. That's smart.
What time did you go to bed? And what did you eat, you fat slob? I just feel awful about myself the next day.
I had to watch all 3 Star Wars.
Well, so I saw that comment. I'm like, okay, like, wow, guys obviously aren't taking game day seriously or whatever. Nick made the point, and I don't know how I didn't think of this, but it's a great point by him. They had guys puking all over the field yesterday. Yeah. And I'm not talking about Jaylen Plunk puking with his play.
Right.
I'm talking about Javon Baker scratch with an illness.
Pop on the potty Douglas. guy had a real problem. He was not in the game, and everybody's like, where is he? And everybody's blaming Van Pelt. And trust me, blame Van Pelt for whatever you want. But Pop Douglas
it's a good catch-all. It's a good catch-all.
But missing Pop Douglas for 2 quarters, I don't think that was on him. I think he was, hugging the toilet in the locker room.
So guys are out eating fish and chips or whatever until all hours of the night, puking all over the place, too many pints, whatever it is. And Kendrick Bourne says, guys need to make personal decisions rather than staying up all night, eating whatever.
Do they not have like a nutritionist or something on the team?
I think they do. It sounds like guys aren't listening to them. It sounds that way. Daniel Aquale says guys think too highly of themselves and need to check their egos at the door. They just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in a game where they were winning 10-0.
They're up 10-0. They look great.
They got blown out. The final 3 quarters, they got blown out. Jacksonville ran on them and ran on them and ran on them some more. The time of possession in the game wasn't super out of whack.
Yeah. For
the final 3 quarters, it was basically 2-1 in the final 3 quarters of the game. Jacksonville had the ball the whole time. They had one drive where they ran it 16 straight times or something like that, or at one point in the second half.
Yeah.
They ran it 16 straight times.
The defense didn't cause a turnover or get a sack. Like, that's hard to do.
That's very
Trevor Lawrence didn't get sacked once in the game. It was 15 of 20, and then they ran it for 171 yards on the ground. And their starting running back was hurt. Didn't even play. I mean, that is unreal. Like, nothing was going, like, defensively it was just a mess. Because even Christian Gonzalez, who's usually the one guy that after these losses we're like, well, he was good. He had a good matchup. No, Brian Thomas smoked him a few times. Now, one of them was pretty good coverage, but that's the thing. If you have a true number one receiver, they can make those catches. And he did. And then the one in the end zone where he got him kind of crossed up a little bit, scored a touchdown on him. So, yeah, things are just falling apart. And it's, I mean, they insert Drake May into the lineup later into the season, and you're thinking, like, oh, maybe things are better around it. The team's worse. Like, everybody but the quarterback. The quarterback play has been better the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Everything else, I mean, maybe you could say the O-line, like the pass blocking's been all right. But I think, again, Drake May's making those guys look a little bit better. Because how many times did you think he was about to get sacked, and then he just, like, eluded the rusher?
That's on a bum knee.
But the defense has gotten worse. The special teams has gotten worse. The running game is non-existent. They can't even run the ball anymore.
No. And so you have players pointing the finger. You have the coach pointing the finger. You have players crying on social media about it after the game, and they lose to Jacksonville in a game where they were winning 10-0 and where they got dominated by arguably the worst team in the league besides them. How bad is it? Is it rock bottom? And I want to pick through some of these throughout the day, Keefe. What was the worst part for you? Like, what was the worst part? And that could be an individual moment. That could be a trend in the game. That could be some of the aftermath following the game. Like, what was the worst part of yesterday? Because it was just like the Germany game stuck with the Patriots last year.
Yeah.
This is one that's going to stick.
Yeah, for me, it was Jaylen Plunk because it's been a guy that I've had really high expectations for all year. And I was thinking that it's a new era. It's not Bill Belichick drafting these receivers. It's somebody else. Well, it seems like it's the same. It seems like Bill Belichick's drafting this receiver as well. He's awful. He might be worse than any of the other guys, and he's way more confident. Like, N'Keal Harry kind of here and gone, and Tyquan Thornton's still here but will soon be gone, and, go on down the list. Like Aaron Dobson, at least those guys caught a couple passes. Jaylen Plunk is got maybe the most false confidence of all the guys in that room, and a lot of them do. And he says he has the best hands in the league, and yet the ball constantly hits him in the hands, and he can't make a play. And then he falls down on a 2-point conversion, just falls. So he has the worst feet, the worst hands. He thinks he's great, but he also gets a lot of playing times. And now part of it, too, is I'm like, he's awful. He shouldn't play anymore. At least got to sit him down. I know it's 7 games into his rookie year, so I'm not saying he's never going to be good, but it's certainly trending in that way. And yet Mayo and Van Pelt are like, yeah, he should still play.
You knew they were going to empower him. They shouldn't have.
I didn't know that. I was hopeful they were going to make the right decision.
I was with you. I was with you last week when you said I would sit him down. I just didn't think they would. They were going to try to empower him. And not only did they do that, this is the worst part for me. And the background of the game is they're getting dominated. Mayo called them out going into the game. He's like, we're going to make changes. Big changes are going to happen. And all they did was Christian Ellis in, Raekwon McMillan out. Like, they really did nothing else, okay?
Big changes. Raekwon the Chef McMillan is going to sit down, and now, like, hey, message sent. Most fans don't even know who the hell that guy is.
No, probably most of his teammates are like, yeah, whatever.
And then he still played.
So that was the backdrop for the game. It's like Mayo called him out. They didn't do anything except maybe the start of the game.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Raekwon
McMillan, you're down.
They're getting dominated. They're down, right? 25-10. And they finally put together a drive. 9 plays, 94 yards. They get in the end zone. May converts a 3rd and 15.
Yes.
To KJ Osborne.
Yes, nice.
KJ Osborne, of all people, who also is popping off after the game on social media.
Well,
and you're like,
did he get catfished or what happened with him?
I don't know. You're like, they're back in the game. They're back in the game. Look at them. Kick the extra points. A 1-possession game. We're alive. They go for 2.
Yeah.
Like morons.
Well, nerds would say go for 2.
Okay, but I don't even get it. I don't even get it.
Well, I'll tell you why. This is not my take. I'm just telling you what it is. At that
more
point
time
in the game,
to figure it out and get back into the game, and the circumstances as opposed to not knowing with too little time.
Well, because for a fact
I hate
you have to get
I don't care.
So do I.
I don't
But
care. I hate it.
That's what the argument would be. Is you have to get a 2-point conversion, so you want that information ahead of time.
Look,
that's what the nerds would say.
Okay.
I don't subscribe to it. I don't go for 2 as a rule. First of all, until the fourth quarter, and then even then until I have to. That's what I would do. So in that scenario, you're down 15, you score a touchdown. I personally am kicking the extra point, but whatever. They didn't, and then the play call is insane.
Yeah. So that's the other piece to it. It's like, all right, first of all, you go for 2, but like your best 2-point play is to the guy who can't catch, and apparently the guy who can't stand up on his feet and Jaylen Plunk
Can't run.
So maybe they weren't going to win the game anyway. Maybe it's wishful thinking, and maybe I'm way too hung up on that. That still bothers me today. I couldn't stop saying it out loud yesterday watching the game. I'm like, I can't believe they went for 2.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? What were they thinking?
I can't believe he played so much.
So, right. And then who they ran it for. Like, that whole play crystallized everything. It's like, we're going to empower our suck-ass player who, oh, by the way, can't stand up on his feet.
No.
And we don't know how to coach. We're following, like, some stupid analytic. It's probably not our real belief. We're just doing it because somebody somewhere said we should go for 2. And the Patriots are running around like chickens with their head cut off. And they're getting dominated by arguably the worst team in the league, again, besides themselves.
You. Yeah, you can't have a mirror match.
So it feels like rock bottom, and yet there's still a lot of season left.
Yep.
So maybe there's more rock bottom still to come.
A lot of season